for coming out to this afternoon to our Acting 2 presentation of the importance of being earnest. This is, I think, the first year at ASIJ that we've had a second level to our acting classes in high school. And so it's been really wonderful that we're able to then present to you all this opportunity, one last opportunity to put on a show for you all before this. You're perfect timing! Come on in. As we've said before, this will be Act 1, and then during the blackout, you'll need to just swivel yourselves over to Act 2. Please be kind and courteous to the people who might be sitting in front of you. If you need to adjust your seat, you're more than welcome to do so. And without further ado, please enjoy The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde.
How are you, my dear Ernest? What brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure. What else should bring one anywhere? Why are these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches? Who is coming to tea?
Oh, merely Augusta and Gwendolyn.
How perfectly delightful.
Yes, that is all very well, but I'm afraid Aunt Augusta won't quite approve of your being here.
May I ask why?
My dear fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolyn is perfectly disgraceful. It is almost as bad as the way Gwendolyn flirts with you.
I'm in love with Gwendolyn. I've come into town expressly to impress her.
Please don't touch the cucumber sandwiches. They are ordered specially for Aunt Augusta.
Well, you've been eating them all this time.
Yes, but that is a quite different matter. She is my aunt. Here, have some bread and butter. The bread and butter is for Gwendolyn.
And very good bread and butter it is, too.
Oh, my dear fellow, you need not as if you were going to eat it all. You behave as if you're married to her already. You are not, and I don't think you ever will be.
Why on earth do you say that?
Well, my dear fellow, Gwendolyn is my first cousin. And before I allow you to marry her, you'll need to clear up the whole question of Cecily.
Cecily? What on earth do you mean? What do you mean, Algie, by Cecily? I don't know anyone of the name of Cecily. My case. Do you mean to say you've had my secret case all this time? I wish you'd let me know. I was writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about it. I was nearly offering a large reward.
Well, I hope you would offer one. I happen to be more than usually hard up.
Well, there's no good in offering a large reward now that the thing is found.
I think it is rather mean of you, Ernest, I must say. However, it makes no matter, for now that I look at the inscription inside, I find that the thing isn't yours after all.
Of course it's mine, and you've no right whatsoever to read what is written inside. It's a very ungentlemanly thing to read a private cigarette case.
Yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case is a present from someone of the name of Cecily. And you said you didn't know anyone of the name.
Well, if you want to know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, charming old lady she is too. Just give it back to me, Auntie.
Yes, but why does she call herself Little Cecily if she is your aunt and lives at Tunbridge Wells? From Little Cecily with her fondest love.
Oh, what is there in that? Some ones are tall, some ones are not tall. For heaven's sake, give it back to me, Algie.
But why does your aunt call you her uncle? I can't quite make out. Besides, your name isn't Jack at all. It's Ernest.
It isn't Earnest. It isn't It's Jack.
You have always told me it was Ernest. I've introduced you to everyone as Ernest. You answer to the name of Ernest. You look as if your name was Ernest. You're the most earnest-looking person I ever saw in my life. It is perfectly absurd in you saying that your name isn't Ernest.
Well, my name is Jack in the country and Ernest in town. And the secret case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that does not account for the fact that your small Aunt Cecily, who lives at Tunbridge Wells, calls you her dear uncle. Come, old boy, you had much better have the thing out at once. I may mention that I've always suspected you of being a secret and confirmed bumburiist, and I'm quite sure of it now.
Bumburious, what on earth do you mean?
I'll reveal to you the meaning of that incomparable expression. Once you're kind enough to inform me why you're Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, produce my secret case first.
Here it is. Now, produce your explanation, and pray, make it improbable.
There is nothing improbable about my explanation at all. In fact, it is perfectly ordinary. The old Mr. Thomas Cardew, who adopted me when I was a little boy, made me in his will guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who addresses me as her uncle, lives in my house under an admirable tutor of Mr. Prism. When one is placed into the position of guardian, one has to adopt a very high moral tone on all subjects. In order to get up to town, I've always pretended to have a younger brother of the name of Earnest, who gets into the most dreadful scrapes. That, my dear Algie, is the whole truth, pure and simple.
The truth is rarely pure and never simple. What you really are is a bumburiist. And I was quite right in saying you're a bumburiist. You're one of the most advanced bumburiists I know.
What on earth do you mean?
Well, you have invented a very useful younger brother named Earnest, in order that you may be able to go to the town whenever you like. I have invented a very useful younger brother, an invaluable permanent invalid, called Bunbury, in order that I may be able to go to the town, to the country, whenever you choose.
I'm not a bumburious at all. If Gwendolyn accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother. Indeed, I think I'll kill him in any case. Cecily has been getting a little too much interested in him, so I'll get rid of him. And I'll strongly advise you to do the same.
Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury.
Why not? If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolyn, and she's the only girl I ever saw in my life that I would marry, I certainly won't want to know Bunbury.
Well, I'm sure the electric bell will ring soon. The Gwendolyn is almost here. Here. Now, if I get Lady Bracknell out of the way for 10 minutes, so that you can have the opportunity of proposing to Gwendolyn, will you dine with me tonight at Willis's?
I suppose so, if you want to.
Well, you must be serious about it. I hate people who are not serious about meals. It's very shallow of them.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you're behaving very well.
I'm feeling very well, Augusta.
That's not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things rarely go together. Mr. Worthing,
Lady Bracknell, always a pleasure.
Dear me, you are smart.
I'm always smart. Am I not, Mr. Worthing?
You're quite perfect, Mrs. Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I am not that. It would leave no room for developments, and I intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry if we're a little late, Algernon, but I was obliged to call on dear Lady Hungry. I hadn't been there since your poor husband's death. I'd never seen a woman look so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger. And I think I'll have a cup of tea and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Certainly, Augusta.
Thank you. Good heavens, why are there no cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specially.
There was no cucumber sandwiches in the market this morning. Not even for any money.
It really makes no matter, Algernon. I had a few crumpets with Lady Harbury earlier who seems to me to be living entirely for pleasure now. I've quite the treat for you tonight, Algernon. I'm going to send you down with Mary Farquhar. She's such a nice woman and so attentive to her husband.
I'm afraid, Aunt Augusta, I'll have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight after all.
I hope not, Algernon. You've put my table completely out.
It is, hardly to say a terrible disappointment to me. However, the truth is, I've just got a telegram sent to me to say that my poor friend Bunbury is very ill again. They seem to think I should be with him.
It is very strange. This Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Yes, poor Bunbury is a dreadful invalid.
Well, I must say, Algernon, that I think it is high time that Mr. Bunbury made up his mind whether he was going to live or to die. This shilly-shallying with the question is absurd, nor do I in any way approve of the modern sympathy with invalids. I consider it morbid. Health is the primary duty of life. I'm always telling that to your poor uncle, but he never seems to take much notice. But I would be much obliged if you'd ask Mr. Bunbury from me to kindly knock for a relapse on Saturday, for allowing you to arrange my music for me.
I'll speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he's still conscious, of course. And I think I can promise you he'll be alright by Saturday. Of course, the music is a great difficulty. I'll go over the program that I've drawn out, if you would kindly come to the next room with me.
Thank you, Algernon. It's very thoughtful of you. I'm sure the program will be delightful after a few expurgations. Gwendolyn, you will accompany me.
Certainly, Mama.
Charming day it has been, Miss Fairfax.
Pray, don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I'm quite certain that they mean something else, and that makes me so nervous.
I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I'm never wrong.
And I would like to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
I would certainly advise you to do so. Mamma has a way of coming back into a room suddenly that I've often had to speak to her about.
Gwendolyn, ever since I met you, I have admired you more than any girl I've ever met since I met you.
Yes, I am quite well aware of the fact. And I often wish that in public, at any rate, you had been more demonstrative. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. And my ideal has always been to love someone of the name Earnest. There's something about that name that inspires absolute confidence. From the very first moment Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Earnest, I knew I was destined to love you.
You really love me, Gwendolyn.
Passionately.
Darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
My own Earnest.
But you don't really mean to say you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Earnest.
But your name is Earnest.
Well, yes, I know it is, but supposing it was something else. Personally, darling, to speak quite candidly, I don't much care about the name of Earnest. I don't think the name suits me at all.
No, it suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It has a music of its own. It produces vibrations.
Well, really, I think there are much of other, much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance.
Jack. No, there's very little music in the name Jack, if any at all indeed. It does not thrill, it produces absolutely no vibrations. And besides, Jack is just a notorious domesticity for John. I pity any woman married to a man called John. The only real safe name is Earnest.
Gwendolyn, we must get married at once.
Married, Mr. Worthing.
Well, surely you know that I love you, and you led me to believe that you were not absolutely indifferent to me.
I adore you, but you haven't proposed to me yet. Nothing has been said at all about marriage. The subject has not even been touched upon.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it an admirable opportunity, and to spare you any possible disappointment, I feel it quite fair to tell you frankly beforehand that I am fully determined to accept you.
Gwendolyn.
Yes, Mr. Worthing? What have you to say to me?
Gwendolyn, will you marry me?
Yes, my darling, of course I will. How long have you been about it? I'm afraid you have had very little experience in how to propose.
Mr. Worthing? Sir, rise from the semi-recumbent posture. It is most indecorous.
Mamma, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing has not quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Pardon me. You are not engaged. When you do become engaged, I or your father, if it shall permit him, will inform you of the fact. Now, I have a few questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing, and while I am making these inquiries, you, Gwendolyn, will wait for me below in the carriage.
Mamma!
In the carriage, Gwendolyn. You can take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you that you are not down on my list of eligible young men. However, I am quite ready to enter your name should your answers be what a really affectionate mother requires. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit I smoke.
I'm glad to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. There are far too many idle men in London as it is. How old are you?
29.
A very good age to be married at. I have always been of opinion that a man who desires to get married should know either everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I know nothing, Lady Bracknell.
That is satisfactory. I do not approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. What is your income?
Between 7 and 8,000 a year.
In land or in investments?
In investments, chiefly.
Do you own a house?
I own a house in Belgrave Square.
What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
The unfashionable side. I thought there was something. However, I suppose that could be easily altered.
The fashion or the side?
Both, if necessary, presume. Now to minor matters. Are your parents living?
I've lost both my parents.
To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both looks like carelessness. Who was your father? Who is evidently a man of some wealth.
I don't really know who I am by birth. Lady Bracknell, I said I had lost both my parents. It would be nearer to the truth to say that my parents seem to have lost me. I was found.
Found?
Yeah. The old Mr. Thomas Cardew, an old gentleman of very charitable and kindly disposition, found me and gave me the name of Worthing because he happened to have a first-class ticket to Worthing at the time.
And where did this young, charitable gentleman who had a first-class ticket for a place in Sussex find you?
In a handbag.
A handbag.
Yes, a somewhat large leather handbag with handles on the side. An ordinary handbag, in fact.
In what locality did this Mr. Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station.
Yes, the Brighton line.
The line is immaterial, Mr. Worthing. To be born, or at any rate bred, in a handbag seems to me to display a contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life, which reminds one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution, and I presume you know what that unfortunate movement led to.
Well, may I ask you what you would advise me to do, Lady Bracknell? I need hardly say I would do anything to ensure Gwendolyn's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire a relation of any kind, and to produce at least one parent of either sex before the season is quite over.
I do not see how I could possibly manage to do that. I could produce the handbag at any moment. It's in my dressing room at home. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me, sir? What is it to do with me? You could hardly imagine that I or Lord Bracknell would dream of allowing our only daughter to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel? Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Good morning.
Dun dun da dun 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 da dun dun. Didn't it go off all right, old boy? You don't mean to say that Gwendolyn refused you.
As far as Gwendolyn is concerned, we are engaged. Her mother is perfectly unbearable. She's a monster without being a myth.
Gwendolyn, upon my word.
Algie, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Worthing.
Really, Gwendolyn? I don't think I can allow this at all.
Algie, you always adopt a strictly immoral attitude towards life. You're not quite old enough for that. Ernest, we may never be married. From the expression on Mamma's face, I fear we never shall. Few parents nowadays pay any regard to what their children have to say to them. But although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry, and marry off for nothing, yet alter my eternal devotion to you.
Dear Gwendolyn,
The story of your romantic origin as related to me, my mamma, has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my nature. Your Christian name has an irresistible fascination. The simplicity of your character makes you exquisitely incomprehensible to me. Your town address at the Albany I have. What is your address in the country?
the Manor House, Woolton, Hertfordshire.
A good postal service, I suppose? It may be needed to do something desperate. I will write to you daily.
Darling,
How long do you remain in town?
till Monday.
Good. Algie, you may turn around now.
Thanks, I've turned around already.
Gwendolyn, you will let me see you to your carriage?
Certainly.
Tomorrow, I'm going bumpering.
Cecily, such a utilitarian occupation as the watering of plants is rather Moulton's duty than yours, especially at a moment when intellectual pleasures await. Your German grammar is on the table? Pray, open at page 15. We will repeat yesterday's lesson.
But I don't like German. I know perfectly well that I look quite plain after my German lessons.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is, that you should improve yourself in every way. He laid particular stress on your German as he was leaving for town yesterday.
Oh, Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he's so serious that I think he cannot be quite well.
Cecily, I am surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. You must remember his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man, his brother.
I wish you would allow that unfortunate young man to come down here sometimes. We might have a good influence over him. I'm sure you certainly would. You know German and geology, and things of that kind influence a man very much.
I do not think that even I could produce any effect that is irretrievably weak and vacillating, nor would I have any desire to reclaim them. You must put away your diary, Cecily. I see no reason for you to carry a diary in the first place.
I keep a diary in order to enter the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is a diary that we all carry about with us.
Yes, but it usually chronicles the things that have never happened and couldn't possibly have happened. I believe that memory is responsible for nearly all 3-volume novels.
Do not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in earlier days.
Did you really? Well, how wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good ended happily, and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so, but it seems very unfair. Was your novel ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript was unfortunately abandoned. I use the word in a sense of loss or mislaid. To your work, child. These speculations are populous.
Horrid political economy. Horrid geography and horrid German.
Pardon me, young lady. I'm looking for the home of my dear brother, Mr. John Worthing.
Oh, this is Mr. Worthing's residence, but he's in town at the moment.
You must be my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You are under some strange mistake. I'm not little, but I am your cousin Cecily, and you must be Uncle Jack's brother, my cousin Ernest, my wicked cousin Ernest.
I'm really not that wicked at all, cousin Cecily. You mustn't think that I'm wicked.
If you are not, well, then you've certainly been deceiving us all in a very inexcusable manner. I hope you've not been leading a double life, pretending to be wicked and being really good all the time. that would be hypocrisy.
Oh, of course I've been rather reckless.
Well, I'm glad to hear it.
In fact, now that you mentioned the subject, I've been very bad in my own small way.
I don't think you should be so proud of that, but I'm sure it must have been very pleasant.
It is much pleasanter being here with you.
I can't seem to understand how you were here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back until Monday afternoon.
That is a great disappointment. I'm obliged to go up by the first train on Monday morning.
Oh. Oh, how thoughtless of me. Won't you come in?
Thank you. You are the prettiest girl I ever saw.
Oh, Mr. Prism says that all good looks are a snare.
They are a snare that every sensible man would like to be caught in.
I don't think I should care to catch a sensible man. I shouldn't know what to talk to him about.
Mr. Worthing, we did not wait for you until Monday afternoon.
I've returned sooner than I expected.
I trust this garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother,
More shameful debts and extravagances? Still leading his life of pleasure?
dead!
Your brother Ernest, dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he will profit by it.
He died abroad. In Paris, in fact. I received a message from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Oh, Uncle Jack! Well, I'm pleased to see you back. What horrid clothes you have got on. Go and change them.
Cecily!
What's the matter, Uncle Jack? Do you look happy? Who do you think is in the dining room? Your brother!
Who?
Your brother, Ernest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
That is nonsense. I haven't got a brother.
Oh, don't say that. No matter how badly he behaved to you in the past, he's still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. I'll tell him to come out, and you will shake hands with them, won't you, Uncle Jack?
After we'd all been resigned to his loss, the sudden return seems to me peculiarly distressing.
My brother in the dining room. I don't know what it all means. I think it's perfectly absurd. Good heavens!
Brother John, I've come down from town to tell you that I'm very sorry for the trouble that I've given you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future.
Uncle Jack, you are not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think his coming down here disgraceful. He knows perfectly well why.
I must say, I think Brother John's coldness to me is peculiarly painful.
Well, Uncle Jack, if you don't shake hands with him, I will never forgive you.
Well, this shall be the last time I shall ever do it.
Cecily, come with me.
Certainly, Mr. Prism. My little task of reconciliation is over. I feel very happy.
Out to you, young scoundrel. You must leave here at once. I won't allow any Bunbury in here.
Your man has put my things in the room next to yours. I hope that is all right.
What?
I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week this time.
You will not stay the night. I will order a dog cart for you at once.
Cecily is a darling.
You're not to talk of Miss Cardew like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Why don't you go up and change? It is very childish to be in deep mourning for a man who's actually staying for a whole week with you in your house as a guest.
You will not stay with me as for a week as a guest or as anything else. You've got to leave by the 4:05 train.
I certainly won't leave so long as you're in mourning.
Will you go if I change my clothes?
If it's not too long. I never saw anybody take so long to dress with such a little result.
At least it's better than always being so overdressed.
If I'm occasionally a little overdressed, I make up for it by always being immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is ridiculous. Your conduct an outrage, and your presence in my garden utterly absurd. However, you've got to catch the 4:05, and I wish you a pleasant journey back to town. This bun bringing, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
I think he has been a great success. I'm in love with Cecily, and that is everything. There she is.
Oh, I merely came back to water the roses.
I hope, Cecily, I shall not offend you in stating quite frankly that you seem to be, in every way, the visible personification of absolute perfection.
Well, I think your frankness is you great credit, Ernest. If you will allow me, I will copy your remarks into my diary.
I don't care for anybody in the whole world but you, Cecily. I love you, Cecily. You'll marry me, won't you?
Oh, you silly boy. We've been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months?
Yes, it'll be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
And when was the engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of February last, worn out by your entire ignorance of my existence, I determined to end the matter one way or the other, and after a long struggle with myself, I accepted you under this dear old tree here. And you must not laugh at me, darling, but it has always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone whose name is Ernest. There's something in that name that seems to inspire absolute confidence. Ah, I pity any poor married woman whose husband is not called Ernest.
Do you mean to say that you couldn't love me if my name wasn't Ernest?
But what name?
Well, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
Oh, but I don't like the name Algernon.
My own dear, sweet, loving little darling. I don't know why you would object to the name of Algernon. It is not at all a bad name. It is rather an aristocratic name. But seriously, Cecily, if my name was Algie, couldn't you love me?
I admire your character. I don't respect you, Ernest, but I fear that I should not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cecily, your chaplain here is, I suppose, thoroughly experienced in all practices of the rites and ceremonials of the church.
Oh, yes. Dr. Chasuble is a most learned man. He has never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must go on the most important christening. The most important business. I'll be back in no time.
Oh! What an impetuous boy he is. I like his hair so much. I must enter his proposal into my diary.
Good afternoon. Is this the Worthing residence?
Yes, it is.
Wonderful. I've come all the way from London on very important business with Mr. Worthing. Is he in?
I'm afraid he has gone to town, but is expected to return very soon. You are more than welcome to wait here for him.
How very hospitable. Thank you.
Pray, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew. What a very sweet name. I already like you more than I can say. I feel we will be great friends. My first impressions of people are never wrong.
How nice of you to like me so much after we've known each other for such a comparatively short time. Pray, sit down.
I may call you Cecily, may I not?
If you wish.
And you will always call me Gwendolyn, won't you?
Pleasure.
Then it is all quite settled, is it not?
I hope so.
You were here on a short visit, I suppose?
Oh, no, I live here.
Really? Your mother, no doubt, or some other female relative of advanced years resides here also?
Oh, no, I have no mother, nor in fact any relations.
Indeed.
My dear guardian, with the assistance of Mr. Prism, has the arduous task of looking after you.
Your guardian?
Yes, I am Mr. Worthing's ward.
Mr. Worthing never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly. But I cannot help but to express that this news has not filled me with feelings of unmixed delight. I am very fond of you, Cecily. I have liked you ever since I met you, but I am bound to state a wish, now that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, that you are a little bit older than you may seem and not so quite alluring in appearance. In fact, If I may speak candidly, I think that...
Oh, pray do. I believe that whenever one has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid.
Well, to speak with perfect candor, I wish you were fully 42 and more than quite plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature, but even men of the most noblest moral character are fully susceptible to the physical charms of others.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolyn. Did you say Ernest?
Yes,
Oh, but it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who's my guardian. It's his brother, his elder brother.
he never mentioned to me that he had a brother.
I'm sorry to say they've not been on very good terms for a long time.
Ah, that accounts for it. Cecily, you've lifted a load from my mind. It would have been terrible if any cloud would have come between a friendship like ours, would it not? But you are quite certain that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian?
Quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his.
I beg your pardon?
Dear Gwendolyn, there's no reason why I should make a secret of it to you. In fact, our little county newspaper is sure to chronicle the fact next week. But I am to be engaged to Ernest Worthing.
My dear Cecily, I feel there must be some slight error, for Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The news will appear in the Morning Post on Saturday at the latest.
I'm afraid you were under some misconception, for Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
Well, that is certainly very curious, for he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you would care to verify the incident... Pray, do so. I always take my diary with me. I feel someone should have something sensational to read on the train. I am so sorry, dear Cecily, if it is any disappointment to you, but I'm afraid I have the prior claim.
It would distress me more than I could tell you, dear Gwendolyn, if it has caused you any mental or physical anguish. But I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed to you, he clearly has changed his mind.
If the poor fellow has been entrapped into any foolish arrangement, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy may have gotten into, I will never reproach him with it after we are married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you?
Here as usual, miss?
Yes, as usual.
What a well-kept garden you have, Miss Cardew.
Well, I'm so glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea that there were any flowers in the country.
No, flowers here are as common as people are in London.
Personally, I cannot fathom how anyone can exist in the country, if anybody who is anybody does. The country bores me to death.
This is what the newspapers call agricultural depression, is it not? I believe the aristocracy is suffering very much from it at present. It's almost an epidemic amongst them, I've been told. May I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you.
Sugar?
No, sugar is not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter. Cake is rarely seen at the best of houses nowadays.
And that's Miss Fairfax.
Thank you. You have filled my tea with lumps of sugar, and though I most distinctly asked for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature, but I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
In order to save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I met you, I distrusted you. I felt that you were false and deceitful. I am never deceived in such matters, and my first impressions of people are invariably right.
I'm afraid I've been trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you've other calls of a similar character to make in the neighborhood.
How dare you! Ernest, my
darling.
A moment. Are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
To dear little Cecily, of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
There's this, Miss Fairfax. I knew there must be some kind of misunderstanding, for the gentleman whose arm is at present round your waist is my guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon.
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack!
Here is Ernest.
My own love.
A moment. May I ask you, are you to be engaged to this young lady?
To what young lady? Good heavens, Gwendolyn!
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolyn. I mean, to Gwendolyn.
Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
I felt that there was some slight error, for the gentleman whose hand is currently around your waist is my cousin, Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon Moncrief! Are you called Algernon?
Is your name
I cannot
really
deny
John?
it.
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked. But my name certainly is John. It's been John for years.
A gross deception has been practiced on both of us.
My poor wounded Cecily.
Gwendolyn.
Mr. Worthing, I have something very particular to ask you. Much depends on your reply.
Mr. Moncrief, please kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I may have the opportunity of meeting you.
Oh, well, that certainly seems a satisfactory explanation, does it not?
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
Oh, I don't. But that does not affect the wonderful beauty of his answer.
True. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer for pretending to have a brother? Was it so that you could come up to down as often as possible to meet me?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. This is no time for skepticism. Should we forgive them?
Yes. No.
True. There are principles at stake that need clarification.
Your Christian names.
We will be christened this afternoon.
For my sake, you're prepared to do this terrible thing.
I am.
In order to please me, you're ready to face this fearful ordeal?
I am.
Darling!
Darling.
Gwendolyn, what does this mean?
Good heavens!
Merely that I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
Come here. Come here immediately. No. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay in the young. Apprised her of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid's confidence, I purchased by means of a small coin. I followed her at once by luggage train. Of course, you will clearly understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter will cease from this moment. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am firm.
I'm engaged to be married to Gwendolyn, Lady Bracknell.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
may I ask if it is in this house that your invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, resides?
Oh no, Bunbury doesn't live here. Bunbury's somewhere else at the present. In fact, Bunbury died.
He died?
Yes. He was, well, I killed him this afternoon. I mean, Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Well, he was quite exploded.
Exploded?
I mean, he was found out. The doctors found out that he couldn't live anymore. That is what I mean. So Bunbury died.
He seems to have had great confidence in the opinion of his physicians. I'm glad, however, that he made up his mind at last to some definite course of action and acted under proper medical advice. Now that we have finally got rid of this Mr. Bunbury, may I ask, Mr. Worthing, who is that person whose hand my nephew Algernon seems to be holding in a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I'm engaged to be married to Aunt Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
Pardon me?
Mr. Moncrief and I are to be engaged.
I do not know whether there is something exciting in the air of this particular part of privilege show, but the number of engagements that go on seems considerably above the number that statistics have laid out for our guidance. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew at all connected to any of the larger railway stations in London?
Miss Cecily Cardew is granddaughter to the late Mr. Thomas Cardew, 149 Belgrave Square, Jervis Park, Dorring, Disarray, and Five-Shire.
That sounds not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspire confidence, even in tradesmen. But what proof have I of their authenticity?
Miss Cardew, family solicitors are Mark B, and Mark B.
Mark B? The firm of the very highest position in their profession. Indeed, I am told that one of them, Mr. Mark B's, is occasionally to be seen at dinner parties. So far, I am satisfied.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
You may also address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Well, Lady Bracknell, this engagement is quite out of the question. As Mrs. Cardew's ward, she cannot marry without my consent until she comes of age. That consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is an extremely, must I say ostentatiously, young eligible man. He looks everything, but he has nothing. What more can one ask for?
The moment you consent to my marriage with Gwendolyn, I would gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
You must be aware what you propose is completely out of question.
And a passionate celibacy is all any of us can look forward to.
I was told you expected me in the vestry. I've been waiting for you there for an hour and 3/4.
Prism? Come here. Prism, where is that baby? 28 years ago, you were seen leaving Lord Bracknell's house in charge of a bassinet that contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. A few weeks later, through elaborate investigations of the Metropolitan Police, the bassinet was discovered, and it contained a 3-volume manuscript of a more than usually revolting sentimentality. But there was no baby. Prism, where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. I only wish I did. The plain facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day you mentioned, a day that is forever branded upon my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out in its perambulator. I had with me a somewhat old but conspicuous handbag in which I had placed a manuscript of a work of fiction that I had written during my few unoccupied hours. However, during a moment of mental abstraction, for which I can never forgive myself, I deposited the baby in the handbag and placed the manuscript in the bassinet.
But where did you deposit the handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Mr. Prism, this is a matter of no small importance to me. I insist on knowing where you deposited the handbag.
I left it in the cloakroom of one of the larger railway stations in London.
What railway station?
Victoria, the Brighton line?
I must retire to my room for a moment. Gwendolyn, wait here for me.
If you are not too long, I will wait for you my whole life.
Mr. Prism, is this the handbag? Send it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one life depends on it.
Ah, yes, it appears to be mine. Here is the injury received through the upsetting of a Gower Street omnibus in younger and happier days. And here on the lock are my initials. I had forgotten that in an extravagant mood I'd had them placed there. The bag is undoubtedly mine. I'm glad to have it so unexpectedly restored to me after all these years.
Mr. Prism, more is restored to you than just this bag. How is the baby you placed in it?
You,
Yes, Papa.
Mr. Worthing, there is some error. There is a woman who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, I hate to seem inquisitive, but would you kindly inform me of who I am?
I'm afraid the news I have to give you will not altogether please you. You are the son of my sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently Algernon's elder brother.
Algy's elder brother? Algy, you young scoundrel. You'll have to treat me with more respect in the future. You've never behaved to me like a brother in all your life.
Well, I did not till now, I admit.
My own, but what own are you? What is your Christian name now that you have become someone else?
Good heavens, I had quite forgotten that point. Your decision on the subject of my name is quite irrevocable, I suppose.
Oh, I never change, except in my affections.
Then the question better be cleared up at once. Lady Bracknell, at the time Mr. Prism deposited the handbag, had I been christened already?
Every luxury that money could buy, including christening, has been lavished on you by your loving and doting parents.
So I had been christened. That's settled. Now what Christian name was I given? Let me know the worst.
Being the eldest son, you're naturally christened after your father.
But what was my father's Christian name?
I cannot at the present moment recall the general's Christian name, but I have no doubt that he had one.
Algie, can you recollect our father's Christian name?
My dear boy, we are not even on speaking terms. He died before I was even a year old.
Lady Bracknell, his name should be in the army list of the period, I suppose.
The general was a man of peace, except in his domestic affairs. I have no doubt that his name would appear in any military directory.
The army list of the last 40 years. These delightful records should have been my constant study. Generals Malin, Maxbaum, Mackley. What ghastly names they have. Mark B, Mixby, Mobs, Mark Reeve, Lieutenant, 1840, Captain, Colonel, General, 1869. Christian names. Ernest John. Gwendolyn, I've always told you my name was Ernest. And now it's Ernest after all. I mean, it naturally is Ernest.
Yes, I remember now. The general's Christian name was Earnest. I knew I had some particular reason for disliking that name.
Ernest, my own Ernest, I felt from the very first that you could have no other name.
Gwendolyn, it's a very hard thing for a man to find out that his whole life he's been telling nothing but the truth. Can you forgive me?
I can, for I feel you were sure to change.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I think I now finally understand the importance of being earnest.